I'm going to tell you what I think you need to know when purchasing a Red Dot Optic. I'm going to share some of the experiences that I've had because I think it'll add a little bit of perspective. So the very first optic that I ever purchased was a Aimpoint patrol rifle optic. Had it on my rifle for several years and I never had any issues with it. At one point I decided that I wanted to free up some space on my rails and reduce some of the weight on my rifle. So I purchased a SIG Romeo 5 Red Dot Optic. I had that on my rifle for several years and I didn't have any issues with it. I was offered the opportunity to use an Aimpoint Micro, which is what I have on my duty rifle now. And I accepted that opportunity for the main reason that it allowed me to take my SIG Romeo optic and put it on my SBS less lethal shotgun. A buddy of mine let me borrow his EOtech. I ran that on my personal rifle for about a week and I didn't have any issues with that either. This is my 12.7 LWRC. I purchased an AMG UH1 Vortex optic actually for a very specific reason, which I'll probably do a whole nother video on that at some point, but I've had this on my rifle for several weeks. I've ran it and haven't had any issues with it. My duty pistol, I have had a Vortex Venom on there for several years. I also know several other officers that purchased that same optic at the same time and put that on their pistol, and none of us have had any issues with that. I also have 4 Vortex Venom optics on 4 simunition pistols, and I've had those on there and I haven't had any issues with them. I have a SIG P320 carry that I ran for about 8 months and it came with a Romeo 1 optic and I haven't had any issues with that. So the vast majority of users out there are not going to want or need or have a desire to have a Red Dot optic that allows them the night vision capability. The vast majority of users out there aren't going to want or need a Red Dot optic that gives them an aiming point out past 100 yards, especially when we're talking about the average patrol officer. So in my opinion, the big difference between these different optics is going to come down to viewing experience. So if you look at the Glock or the Vortex Venom optic compared to the Romeo 1 optic, the window is slightly bigger. If you compare the SIG optic to the AMG UH1, you can see that the viewing experience and the picture that you're seeing, one is going to be bigger than the other. So viewing experience, is it that big of a deal? I'm really just going to speak on my experiences. I ran this pistol for 8 months. I have since gone away back from the SIG to the Glock with the Vortex on there, and I would say the viewing experience, the difference is not something that I really noticed or cared about all that much. So I would say no. And now when we're talking about rifles and red dots and the Aimpoint versus the EOtech, and we're talking about viewing experience, is the window significantly being bigger here a major difference than say an Aimpoint? In my opinion, just in my experiences, is I would say it's not that big of a deal to me, because when I'm looking down a red dot, both my eyes are open and I am seeing the entire picture, regardless of whether or not I'm seeing it through here or I'm seeing it through a smaller dot. So if you're going to be purchasing a red dot, do you need to spend $500–600 on a red dot for the reasons that I mentioned? I really don't think so. Unless that's something that you want to do, that's fine. But do you need to? I don't think you need to. What I think the most important things are you make sure that you're purchasing your red dot from a reputable brand, and that reputable brand has a lifetime warranty. I would not purchase a red dot from, obviously, off of Amazon or eBay or any other company that isn't a reputable brand that doesn't offer a lifetime warranty. Now, all of that being said, I've seen students or officers come through or shoot that had EOtechs that were they couldn't shoot. It wasn't the optic, it was the officer. I've seen officers with lesser model, less expensive optics come through that could shoot better than officers with the more expensive optics. So I have always been a very need to know kind of person. I have never really cared about learning all the intricate and specific details about the technology, etc. What is most important to me is, will the optic hold a 0? And as long as it's holding a 0, if I can put that dot where it needs to be and pull the trigger without disturbing the sights or without disturbing the dot, am I going to hit what I'm aiming at?